Okay, let's think about this for a second. Time travel. You know, the stuff of pure science fiction, right? Or what if it isn't? What if it's something classified, something our own past, maybe our government has actually explored?
It's a huge question, and that's exactly what we're digging into today.
Right. We're doing a deep dive into these alleged secret flights called the Kronos missions. The claim, U.S. astronauts sent thousands of years into the future.
And this isn't just speculation pulled out of thin air. The information, as we understand it, comes from someone supposedly in the know, a former Air Force OSI agent. That's the Office of Special Investigations. Someone apparently directly involved.
Wow, okay. That adds some weight, doesn't it? If true, it's almost unbelievable. A massive leap.
Absolutely. We sort of touched on the tech before, right?
Yeah.
The ideas behind building the actual Kronos craft,
Yeah.
that was already mind-bending stuff.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
today we're getting into the missions themselves, the actual flights. What happened when they, went.
This is where we get into the reported observations, the potential historical significance, some genuinely paradigm-shifting stuff, if the accounts hold water.
Okay, I'm ready. So if you're listening and you're ready for the juicy stuff, the boots on the ground, or maybe craft in the void experiences, buckle up.
Our goal here really is to pull out the most important bits from the source material we have. We're focusing just on the first two Kronos missions for now.
Cronus 1 and Cronus 2. Let's try and make sense of what they supposedly found. Starting with Cronus 1, sounds like it was a bit of a shot in the dark.
You could definitely say that. A huge leap into the unknown.
So imagine being one of those astronauts, highly trained obviously, but you're about to fly into some kind of portal near Mars, and you have no idea where it leads.
None whatsoever. The sources talk about the craft's outer skin and this pathway box thing working together. Apparently, they could curve time somehow, and that's how they got into the portal.
Curve time, okay. And navigation,
Yeah.
if you don't know where you're going.
That's the crazy part. They were basically prepared to be lost. They had star navigation like ancient sailors, but also this other complex bit of kit, a 4-vector longitudinal pathway device.
A 4-vector. Yeah, okay, sounds complicated. Was that their main hope for figuring out where they ended up?
Seems like it. It was apparently their primary system for getting a fix on their position. They'd even consulted that contact J-Rod, who supposedly gave insights into this kind of alien tech. But still,
Yeah.
the destination was a total mystery.
That initial uncertainty, that's just wild. Relying on stars from a potentially unknown galaxy, millennia from home.
It really underscores the risk, doesn't it? And frankly, the courage involved. They were dealing with physics nobody really understood yet.
So what was it actually like going through the portal?
The astronauts reported something they called pixelization. Sounds pretty unpleasant. A really disorienting, almost dissolving feeling, like their bodies were losing cohesion for a moment before reforming.
Yikes. Okay. And then? Fast travel.
Yeah, propelled incredibly rapidly, then they slowed down.
Yeah.
But the destination, this is where it gets really weird.
Don't leave us hanging.
They didn't end up in some bustling star system or on an alien world. They arrived in deep space. Middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere. Like empty space.
Pretty much. Within the constellation of Taurus, but completely void of nearby planets or stars. Just emptiness. And get this, approximately 40,000 years into the future.
Hold on. 40,000 years. And they find nothing. Just void. How do they even know it was 40,000 years?
That's what's fascinating. Apparently based purely on the movements of the distant constellations viewed from that remote point. It suggests their systems, maybe that 4-vector device, had an incredible grasp of long-term celestial mechanics.
Even if it led them to an empty spot. Okay, so they're 40,000 years in the future, in the void. Next good question. Can we get home?
Exactly. They were worried about the quantum cord, that theoretical link back to their own time and place. Would it hold? Would it burn them back?
They then did it.
Thankfully, yes. They returned. And the craft itself, apparently undamaged, which is amazing after that kind of trip.
But not everything was unaffected.
Right. Food, containers, things like that showed signs of that pixelization effect. Interestingly, the food was still edible, apparently, but physically altered.
So the
Yeah.
mission was really just a test. Test the tech, see what happens, survive the round trip.
That seems to be the gist of Cronus 1 based on these accounts, purely testing the equipment and the experience itself. They didn't bring back alien artifacts or anything, just the data, the coordinates of that empty future.
Which leads to the mistake theory.
Exactly. Later on, some scientist, not directly involved but brilliant, apparently suggested the Mars portal might have multiple exits, different pathways.
Like a fork in the temporal road.
Sort of. And because the human operators were still grappling with these, extraterrestrial navigational systems and that four-vector device,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't fully understand it yet.
So they might have just picked the wrong exit.
Potentially. Accidentally chose the highway to nowhere instead of a path leading to an actual star system or something more substantial. It points to a really steep learning curve.
So, bottom line for Cronus 1, a 40,000-year trip to an empty parking lot in space, possibly because they misread the cosmic GPS on their first try.
That's one way to put it, yeah. The sheer unpredictability must have been the biggest hurdle. They weren't just learning new buttons, they were learning a whole new way reality could work.
That mistake, as you called it, really forced them to rethink things, didn't it?
It had to. You don't take a risk like that again without trying to understand what went wrong and how to control it better. It wasn't just about the machine, it was about the human understanding of the machine.
Which brings us to Cronus 2. They didn't just give up. They learned, adapted.
Absolutely. Cronus 2 was reportedly a newer craft, redesigned specifically based on the lessons from that first, somewhat empty journey.
So what were the improvements? What did they change?
Well, practical things mostly. Redesigned food and water storage to try and resist those pixelization effects better. Modified seating, probably for comfort and maybe safety during transit. An updated control panel,
Makes sense. Easier interface, maybe?
possibly,
Yeah.
and upgrades to the environmental systems. They were trying to lessen those severe physical symptoms the first crew reported. Things like nausea, disorientation.
But they couldn't stop the pixelization itself, that entry effect.
Apparently not. That seemed unavoidable, part of the portal transit. But they were trying to make the experience more survivable, more manageable for the crew. Even things like upgraded uniforms and helmets were mentioned.
It really shows that human element, doesn't it? Facing these incredible, almost alien challenges and figuring out, step by step, how to deal with them. Constant improvement.
It's a hallmark of human exploration, pushed to an extreme level here.
So Cronus 2 is ready. When did this second trip happen?
According to the sources, 1988. And this time, they used a different portal one located near Venus.
Different portal, different destination. Did they have a better idea this time?
It seems so, because this time the craft emerged 4,000 years into the future, so much closer in time than the first trip.
Okay, 4,000 years. Still a huge jump. And where did they arrive? Still empty space?
No, this is the big difference. They arrived within our solar system, not far from Earth.
Whoa. Okay, so they made it to Earth. 4,000 years in the future. What happened then? Did they just fly down?
Not quite. What happened next sounds like something straight out of, well, advanced sci-fi. As they approached future Earth, their craft was captured.
Captured, like tractor beam. Hostile.
Not a tractor beam, apparently. The description used was a net. Captured in a net by the inhabitants, then carefully docked.
A net. That sounds surprisingly low-tech almost, or maybe incredibly high-tech in a way we don't get.
Perhaps elegantly simple, advanced technology. But no hostility reported. And what they saw then, that must have been mind-blowing. Future Earth in, what, roughly 6,000 AD?
Okay, paint the picture. What was it like?
The most striking thing, anti-gravity cities. That's the term used. Entire cities building spaceports, just floating, suspended in the air.
Floating cities?
Yeah.
How high up?
The observation was 1,000 feet up or so. Not just a few buildings, but apparently the whole way their civilization was structured, defying gravity.
Okay, that's hard to even picture. What about the people? Did they meet them?
Yes.
Yeah.
And interestingly, they spoke English, but
There's always a but.
there was a huge language barrier. Not because of the basic language, but because of the terminology. Their technology was so advanced, the words they used to describe it, the underlying concepts, they were completely alien to the 1988 astronauts.
Like us trying to explain quantum computing to someone from the Middle Ages. The words just don't exist yet.
Exactly. It raises a really profound point, doesn't it? Even with a shared root language, how do you comprehend a society 4,000 years ahead? Their tech, their science, maybe even their way of thinking could be built on principles we haven't even conceived of.
A fundamental gap. What did these future humans look like? Still.
Still considered human, yes. Not synthetics or aliens, but different. Generally taller, mostly lacked hair. And the really fascinating bit, they seem to have integrated technology directly into their brains.
The internal computers. Transhumanism.
That's the description. Almost like they didn't need external devices because the tech was part of them. It makes you question what the human form even means when technology can reshape it so radically.
So floating cities mentally augmented humans. What about the planet itself? Was Earth okay? Were the floating cities because the surface was ruined?
Interestingly, no. The sources say the planet's surface, the land and water, looked normal, undamaged,
Yeah.
which suggests the floating cities weren't some desperate measure. They were built that way well, for some advanced reason the astronauts couldn't figure out.
And some people still lived on the surface.
Apparently so. It wasn't a total abandonment of the ground, just a very different way of living for many.
Okay, so they dock, they see these incredible sights. How was the interaction?
Tense? Not according to the report. No hostilities at all. The future humans recognized them immediately as visitors from the past, and there's mutual fascination.
They were curious about the astronauts.
Absolutely. They apparently had as many questions for the astronauts as the astronauts had for them. Things like, what year did you leave to get here? Imagine that conversation. A living history lesson right there for both sides.
Wow. A cross-temporal Q&A. What else happened? Did the future humans study them?
Yes, they performed advanced scans, described as being like an MRI or SAT scan, but way faster, completed in seconds.
And were they interested in anything specific?
This is telling. They were particularly interested in the astronauts' circulatory system and their lung capacity.
Why those systems? What does that imply?
It strongly suggests that these future humans had evolved or perhaps engineered different biological structures,
Yeah.
maybe adapting to their anti-gravity environment or as a result of the technological integration. They were essentially studying our primitive biology.
More biology. Primitive. That's humbling.
It implies they saw our current form as a historical data point. They were interested in their own evolutionary path, looking back at us, their ancestors, to understand their own journey. It suggests not just a tech leap, but a biological one for humanity down the line.
Making us biological artifacts. Okay, my brain hurts a little. What else? Any souvenirs?
There was one very significant souvenir. They were given a device, looked like a tablet, maybe like an advanced Kindle or iPad, sleek, but no instructions.
Okay, so plug it in, try to turn it on.
That's what you'd think. But Earth scientists, our scientists back here, supposedly took 8 years until 1996 just to figure out how to operate it.
8 years. Why? What was the secret?
It operated purely through consciousness. No buttons, no touchscreen, maybe not even voice commands as we know them.
Right.
Pure thought control.
Get out of here. Consciousness-controlled tech from 4,000 years in the future, and it took us 8 years just to realize how to interact with it.
It shows the sheer scale of the technological gap, doesn't it? It's not just faster processors. It's a fundamentally different way of interfacing with technology, almost symbiotic.
Mind-blowing. Okay, that's incredible. But you said there was something even more significant discovered.
Yes. This came from recordings, perhaps from the craft's logs, or maybe information shared by the future humans. The biggest revelation of all.
Well, has he?
These future Earthlings. They hadn't just stayed in their time. They had also developed the ability to travel back in time.
Wait, the future humans could travel to their past, to our present, or even earlier?
Exactly. And their purpose, according to these accounts, to observe past Earth, including the very era the Cronus missions were happening, the 1980s, 90s.
They were observing us while we were trying to visit them.
Potentially, yes. But here's the crucial part. They were bound by a strict rule, something called the paradox theory,
Meaning?
meaning they could not touch or change anything, strictly observation only. They operated within some kind of protective bubble or field to ensure non-interference.
So they're like temporal tourists, but with a strict look, don't touch policy, because messing with the past is too dangerous.
That seems to be the implication. An acknowledgement of how fragile the timeline might be. It preserves their own existence, presumably.
Okay, hold on. If our own future descendants are traveling back to observe us, sticking to non-interference,
It raises a massive question, doesn't it?
could some UFO sightings, those unexplained aerial phenomena we've debated for decades, could some of them actually be us from the future?
Now watching our own history unfold carefully from within their protective bubbles, and it's a pretty stunning thought. It reframes the whole UAP mystery, potentially. Not necessarily aliens, but historical self-observation.
Wow, that just turns everything on its head. Our own future, watching our past, that's
Yeah.
a lot to process.
It is. It connects so many threads in a really unexpected way.
So let's just recap this incredible deep dive. Cronus 1, the test run, 40,000 years into a cosmic void, a lesson in navigation and the harsh realities of portal travel.
And maybe a lesson in humility when dealing with poorly understood advanced tech.
Right. Then Cronus 2, 1988 to 4,000 years ahead. Direct contact with future Earth. Floating cities, Mentally augmented humans, shared language, but a vast conceptual gap.
And that consciousness-controlled artifact that baffled scientists for years, a tangible measure of the technological difference.
And the biggest twist, discovering they could travel back in time and were likely observing us, bound by non-interference rules.
The sheer scope is immense. From the physical effects like pixelization to the profound anthropological and temporal implications, it challenges everything.
It really does. Our perception of linear time, human potential, even the nature of mysterious sightings,
Yeah.
it all gets questioned.
The idea that our future might be actively watching our present, that adds a whole new layer to history and maybe even destiny.
It leaves you thinking, doesn't it? So here's something for you, the listener, to chew on. If our future selves are observing us right now, stuck behind that non-interference rule, what parts of our world today, our struggles, our tech, our politics, our triumphs, what would they find the most fascinating or maybe the most baffling?
What would stand out to them looking back from 4,000 years ahead?
And what does it mean for our own choices right now, knowing that future eyes might already be watching them unfold? Does it change anything?
Heavy questions. Definitely encourages you to keep pondering these mysteries. The potential for reality to be far, far stranger and more complex than we usually imagine. It's certainly there in these accounts.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this mind-bending deep dive. Until next time.